would be honored if you would join us.
Greetings and welcome to another YouTube episode of Film Stories with me, Dan Cooper. Today's going to be a really quick episode as it's been a manic week, and I'm just going to tell you a classic film story you may well have heard before. If you haven't, you're in for a treat. This is the story of how Claude Van Damme, the martial arts movie star, did briefly, but almost took on the role of the Predator in the 1987 film of the same name, opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger. At the time, Schwarzenegger was huge. He'd come off the back of Commando. Van Damme was still trying to build his profile in Hollywood. He was coming off the back of No Retreat, No Surrender. It was really an emerging talent. So when he kind of pushed and found himself offered the role of the alien hunter in Predator, he snapped at it. He thought this was his chance to face off against Schwarzenegger on screen and bring his unique brand of athletic martial arts to bear upon Schwarzenegger, the hulking Schwarzenegger, who was probably the biggest movie star on the planet at that point. Certainly action star, although Stallone might well have contended that. But either way, Van Damme saw it as his chance to catapult himself to their level, and so he jumped at the role. However, when he began to try the suit on, or rather be kind of fitted for the suit, he began to realize that all perhaps was not as it should be, because the suit seemed bulky and heavier than he perhaps thought it was going to be. I mean, reports suggest that Van Damme thought he thought it would be some prosthetics, some makeup, but would allow him all that natural athleticism, so he could leap around the jungle and fly kicking Arnie in the head. But it wasn't going that way. When he was being fitted, he began to get quite irate and quite angry because he realised that it was taking away a lot of his natural agility. And so eventually, the film itself had begun production by this point. They were filming in Mexico, and the other stars, including Schwarzenegger, were well on their way to shooting the sizable part of the film, where of course the Predator doesn't appear, as the character does just make glimpses of appearances. So when the suit finally arrived, they opened it up. McTiernan, the director, John McTiernan, Schwarzenegger, have talked about opening it up and the underwhelming feeling that followed, because it just didn't look scary, and it looked big, and it looked bulky, and I think I've got some footage that I can put on the screen so you can have a look at just how really silly it looked. It was bright red, and that was so they could key in the invisible effect too much so it can camouflage itself, but it just simply was not impressive. Also not impressive was Schwarzenegger's view of Van Damme. He said that when he arrived on set, he just complained, and that's one of the many alleged reasons that he didn't end up taking on the title role. But we'll get to that in a moment. And there's some really great pieces online you can read about this. There's a great piece by Ryan Lambie, amongst others. But Schwarzenegger wasn't happy with Van Damme. Van Damme wasn't happy with the role. No one was happy with the suit. It wasn't a happy situation. So John McTiernan managed to get in touch with Stan Winston, the legendary Stan Winston, so all kinds of iconic creature designs, and got him to have a look at redesigning the suit while they shot the parts of the movie. And as the story goes, and this is what's such a fabulous story, it just kind of drops name after name. Stan Winston then was on a plane with James Cameron, talking to him about a possible design, and James Cameron, the legendary science fiction producer and director, said, well, I've always wanted to see a design with mandible claws, and thus the idea for the now iconic alien hunter was born. There are a legion of possible reasons as to why Van Damme didn't end up in the role. He claims that he walked off set, but there's Joey Poor breaks a story about how Van Damme was fired because he broke a $20,000 alien head. When they first put the head on him, he was aghast because it would cover up his features, and so he threw it on the floor and smashed it. And producer Joel Silver fired him on the spot. There's all kinds of reasons. The complaining. There's a piece on Vulture which just lists them, and they all have kind of credited interviews from crew members at the time. He breaking the head of the costume, the fact that he wasn't tall enough. The studio didn't like the Predator costume when they saw the dailies, so they just fired the costume and fired him effectively. there's a story about him passing out, and again, all these are credited with interviews from crew. So how they all can be true, I'm not quite sure, but who knows? And then my favourite story is that he wouldn't stop kickboxing. He just refused to stop kickboxing. He had the suit on and he was just kind of doing all these crazy splits and kicks. And Joel Silver said, "Look, the Predator can't kickbox." And Jean-Claude Van Damme agreed to disagree with the film's producer and just kept on kickboxing until they fired him. So all kinds of really crazy, fun reasons. But either way, I mean, one really great story is that ultimately, when the suit was on, it had those kind of weird three-quarter hind legs, and they told Van Damme while he was in the suit to jump over a ditch, and he said, "No, if I do that, I'm going to break my legs. Get someone else to do it. I refuse." And they said, "If you refuse, you're gone." And so he refused. He got out of the suit, and they promptly put someone else in the suit. That person jumped the ditch and did break their leg, thus proving Van Damme right. Van Damme, once he was off the film, flew back to Hollywood, and it actually, in a roundabout way, kind of worked out really well for him, because the Predator was the talk of the town in Hollywood. So it got him a few interviews, including one at Cannes, where at this point the film was still shooting, and all they knew was that this Jean-Claude Van Damme guy was the lead role in the film. And he was opposite Schwarzenegger, and that, of course, got him into the doors with some power players and secured him a role in Bloodsport, and that his career would go on from strength to strength. That's pretty much the story. I do love that story. Maybe we'll come back to Predator at some point and do a proper kind of film story, behind the scenes look back at it. But one final little note is director Shane Black, when he made The Predator this year, did pay a little tribute to that original kind of hokey red suit. When if you look at the Halloween scene, I'll try and get a picture of it now. The suit makes a brief appearance in the long belated sequel. So there you go. That was just a little story about 1987's Predator. And before I go, do subscribe if you enjoyed that. We would love to see you get your hands on Film Stories issue 2, our print magazine. It's pretty amazing. You can go to the website, filmstories.co.uk, and find out more details there. You can also find us on Twitter at filmstories.pod, and you can also find us on Facebook at Film Stories Online. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care, have a great week, and I'll be back soon. Bye-bye.